Yes, students, now let us come to the transverse section of the small intestine. This is the anatomy. Three parts are there: upper duodenum, middle jejunum, and inner ileum. Now we'll go for the transverse section of the small intestine. A TS of the small intestine shows four different layers. A TS of small intestine shows four different layers. TS of the small intestine shows four different layers. Shows four different layers, namely an outer serosa, an outer serosa, outer serosa. This is the outermost layer, made up of areolar connective tissue and is covered by simple squamous epithelium. He is called mesothelium. He is called mesothelium. You have to remember this. Got it? Outer serosa. This is the outermost wall layer of the small intestine, made up of areolar connective tissue, loosely areolar connective tissue, and is covered by simple squamous epithelium. Is called mesothelium. It always protects the underlying tissues. It always protects the underlying tissues. Clear? Next. Below the serosa, there is a muscularis. There is a muscularis. So this muscularis, it consists of outer longitudinal and inner circular muscles. We can say that muscularis consists of two layers of the smooth muscle fibers. Two layers of the smooth muscle fibers. Outer longitudinal. So this is the longitudinal and inner circular muscles. Muscularis, it consists of two layers of the smooth muscle fibers, outer longitudinal muscles and inner circular muscles. Between these two muscles, there is a network of nerves. Between these two muscles, there is a network of nerves called myenteric plexus. Myenteric plexus. Myenteric plexus. This myenteric plexus are also called as Aurobachus plexus. Myenteric plexus, also called as Aurobachus plexus. It controls the movement of two layers of the smooth muscle fibers. Clear? So, muscularis is the second wall layer of the small intestine. It consists of two layers of smooth muscle fibers, outer longitudinal, inner circular muscles. Between these two muscles, there is a network of nerves called myenteric plexus, also called as Aurobachus plexus. So this myenteric plexus controls the movement of the two layers of the smooth muscle fibers. Clear? Next. The middle layer is called the submucosa. Okay. Third one is the submucosa. Submucosa. So this is present between the muscularis and the mucosa. Submucosa is present between the muscularis and mucosa. Here, submucosa is also made up of areolar connective tissue. Areolar connective tissue containing blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and network of nerves. That network of nerves present in the submucosa of duodenum or submucosa of the small intestine is called Meissner's plexus. Meissner's plexus is called Meissner's plexus. Remember this. Submucosa is the third wall layer of the small intestine, made up of areolar connective tissue containing blood vessels, lymphatic vessels or lacteates, and network of nerves are called Meissner's plexus. Clear? I think you are getting now. Then one more point you should remember. The submucosa of the duodenum. Submucosa of the duodenum. Submucosa of the duodenum contains compound branch tubular glands. Contains compound branch tubular glands are called Brunner's glands. Are called Brunner's glands. Also called as duodenal glands. Also called as mucosal glands. Also called as mucosal glands. So that you should remember here. Submucosa of the duodenum contains A compound branch tubular glands. This I'm going once again I'm going to repeat in the intestinal glands. Submucosa of the duodenum contains compound branch tubular glands are called Brunner's glands. Since they are present only in the duodenum now, hence the name duodenal glands. Since these glands secrete mucus now, hence they are also called as mucosal glands. Clear? Okay, next let us come to the mucosa. This is the innermost layer of the small intestine. Innermost layer of the small intestine. It is again differentiated into three layers. They are the muscularis mucosae, muscularis mucosae, lamina propria, lamina propria, and surface epithelium. Lamina propria and surface epithelium. Surface epithelium. These are the three layers of the mucosa that you should keep in mind. Three layers of the mucosa. Here, muscularis mucosa also contains two layers of the smooth muscle fibers. Outer longitudinal muscles, inner circular muscles. Outer longitudinal muscles and inner circular muscles. You remember this. Outer longitudinal and inner circular muscles, exactly similar to the muscularis only. Got it? What I am telling you. Then lamina propria, it consists of reticulate connective tissue. It consists of reticulate connective tissue containing blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and the cells of the immune system called lymphocytes. Cells of the immune system are called lymphocytes. Got it? No. These lymphocytes are always found in the groups. Always found in groups. Such group of lymphocytes are called solitary nodules. Such group of lymphocytes are called solitary nodules. In the ileum, last part of the small intestine, about 10 to 70 solitary nodules are aggregate together. About 10 to 70 solitary nodules are aggregate together to form Peyer's patch. To form a Peyer's patch. To form a Peyer's patch. That also you should keep in our mind. This Peyer's patch is also, we can give the example for the secondary lymphoid organ because it is also involved in immunity. Clear? I think you are getting it. Then, surface epithelium is made up of a single layer of columnar epithelium. A single layer of columnar epithelium. You remember this. Single layer of columnar epithelium. Then inner wall of the small intestine thrown into a number of finger-like projections are called villi. Number of finger-like projections are called villi. They are the main absorptive structures as in case of the small intestine. Clear? I'll repeat once again. Look at the board, dear students. Transverse section of the small intestine shows four different layers: serosa, muscularis, submucosa, mucosa. Serosa is the outermost protective layer made up of loosely areolar connective tissue covered by simple squamous epithelium is called mesothelium. It always protects the underlying tissues. Muscularis consists of two layers of the smooth muscle fibers, outer longitudinal inner circular muscles. Between these two muscles, there is a network of nerves called myenteric plexus, also called as Arbutus plexus. It controls the movement of two layers of the smooth muscle fibers. Then submucosa present between the muscularis and mucosa, made up of loose areolar connective tissue containing blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and the nerves. The network of nerves present in submucosa of duodenum are called Meissner's plexus. Meissner's plexus. Clear? In addition to this, submucosa of duodenum contains compound branch tubular gland. A is called Brunner's glands, also called duodenal glands, also called as mucosal glands. Because they are found particularly in submucosa of duodenum, hence the name duodenal glands. Since they secrete an alkaline mucus, hence they are also called as mucosal glands. Clear? Then, innermost layer of the small intestine is called mucosa. It is different into three layers. Muscularis mucosae. Here also it consists of two layers of the smooth muscle fibers. Outer longitudinal inner circular muscles. Lamina propria. made up of reticulate connective tissue containing blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and the cells of the immune system are called lymphocytes. These lymphocytes are always found in groups and clusters. They are called solitary nodules. In the ileum, 10 to 70 solitary nodules are aggregated together to form a pH patch. Clearer. Then surface epithelium, it is made up of a single layer of columnar epithelial cells. Got it? Then finally, inner wall of the small intestine is thrown into a number of finger-like projections are called villi. They are the major sites of absorption of the digested food in the small intestine. That we have details we are going to discuss in absorption. Internally, this point is very important, students. You should keep in our mind. Internally, each villus contains. Internally, each villus contains. Internally, each villus contains network of blood capillaries. Network of blood capillaries, and lymphatic vessels, and lymphatic vessels, lymphatic vessels. Lymphatic vessels are also called as lacteals. Lymphatic vessels are also called as lacteals. Also called as lacteals. Internally, each villus contains network of blood capillaries and lacteals. Blood capillaries help in the absorption of the end products of carbohydrates like the simple sugars and the end products of proteins like amino acids. Yes, as I said, these 2 points are very, very important. You should keep in our mind. Internally, each villus contains network of blood capillaries. That blood capillaries helps in the absorption of the end products of carbohydrates like simple sugars, and the end products of proteins like amino acids. Clear up. Whereas the lacteals help in the absorption of the end products of lipids like fatty acids and glycerol. Whereas the lacteals are lymphatic vessels now, help in the absorption of the end products of lipids like fatty acids and glycerol. I think it is very clear for you. Yes, this much I should keep in our mind. I'll repeat once again. Internally, each villus contains network of blood capillaries and lacteals or lymphatic vessels. Blood capillaries helps in the absorption of the end products of carbs like simple sugars, end products proteins like amino acids. Whereas the lacteals or lymphatic vessels help in absorption of the digested particles of lipids like fatty acids and glycerol. I think it is very clear. So with this, we have completed the small intestine. Dear students, you should remember here, which is the last part of the small intestine, ileum. Okay, now let us come to the large intestine. Yes, large intestine. Large intestine extends from ileum to the anus. Large intestine extend from ileum to the anus. Extend from ileum to the anus. It is about 1.5 meters long. Large intestine is about 1.5 meters long and divided into 4 parts. Large intestine is about 1.5 meters long. So large intestine extend from ileum to the anus. As I said, it is about 1.5 meters long and is divided into 4 parts. They are cecum, colon, rectum, cecum, colon, rectum, and anal canal. And anal canal. So these are the 4 parts of the large intestine. Cecum, colon, rectum, and anal canal are the 4 parts of the large intestine. So this is the large intestine. So what I am writing, this is called cecum. This is called cecum. This is called the cecum. So this is the colon. Yes. This is the colon. Yes. So this complete picture is nothing but large intestine only. This is the large intestine. Large intestine. As I said, it has the four parts: cecum, colon, rectum, and anal canal. Cecum, colon, rectum, and anal canal. Cecum, colon, rectum, and anal canal. Yes. Okay. Look at the board. Look at the board. Yes. See here. So this is called the cecum. This is the cecum. Here you can find the small intestine. Jejunum and ileum you can find this. One more student. I forgot to explain the duodenum. Actually, duodenum is a C-shaped loop. Look at the board. So this is the duodenum. So this is called duodenum. This is the duodenum. It is a C-shaped loop actually. C-shaped loop measures about 25 centimeter long. It receives hepatopancreatic duct of liver and pancreas. So this is the pancreas and this is the liver. This is the liver. The details I am going to explain in the glands actually. So this is called hepatopancreatic duct actually. Hepatopancreatic duct. Duodenum is a C shape. Is it not looks like the letter C here? It is a C-shaped loop. Measures about 25 centimeter long. It receives hepatopancreatic duct of liver and pancreas. That details I am going to explain in glands. How hepatopancreatic duct is formed. That details I am going to explain while studying the glands. Clear? I think it is very clear. Then jejunum is 2.5 meters long. Ileum is 3.5 meters long. That you should remember. Okay. Now let us come to the large intestine. As I said, it is divided into cecum, colon, rectum, and anal canal. Cecum, look at the board. This is called cecum. It is a blind sac lying at the junction of the ileum and colon. Lying at the junction of ileum and colon. It is a blind sac. Why we are using the blind sac? ಕೆಲವು ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಇದರ ಸ್ಯಾಕ್ ತರ ಕಾಣಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಕೆಲವು ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಕೊಲಾನಿಗೂ ಸೀಕಮ್ ಏನು ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಎರಡು ಒಂದೇ ತರನೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. That is why we are using the term blind sac. It is a blind sac lying at the junction of ileum and colon. It is provided with a finger-like projection is called vermiform appendix. It is provided with a finger-like projection is called vermiform appendix. It is a vestigial organ having no function in the human body. I mean, it is concerned with the digestion I am talking. But it is a secondary lymphoid organ. This picture we secondary explain ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. Under secondary lymphoid organs appendix ಅನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. But digestion ಬಂದಾಗ what is the meaning of vestigial ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, in some animals these are organs are well developed and functional. In some animals these are the rudimentary and non-functional. That kind of organs are called vestigial organs. In our body there are totally 5 organs. Later we are going to discuss. Here appendix is the vestigial organ, having no function in the human digestive system. Adre bere animals hodaga this appendix is meant for cellulose digestion. Idu gnapka itkolli. Okay, let it be. So cecum is a blind sac lying at the junction of ileum and colon. It is provided with a finger-like projection is called vermiform appendix. It is a vestigial organ having no function in the human body. Bacterial infection of the appendix is called appendicitis or appendicitis ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. ಅವಾಗ ಇದು ಸ್ವೆಲ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಪಟ್ಟೆ ಸ್ಟಮಕ್ ಇನ್ಬೇರಬಲ್ ಪೇನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಅವಾಗ ನಾವು ಸ್ಕ್ಯಾನಿಂಗ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಅವಾಗ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಅಪೆಂಡಿಟಿಸ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತಂತಂದ್ರೆ that person has to go for the surgical treatment. ಅವಾಗ ಲೋಕಲ್ ಅನಸ್ಥಿಷಿಯಾ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಈ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬಿಸಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ನಮಗೆ ಏನು ತೊಂದರೆ ಏನು ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. That is the simple treatment for the appendicitis or appendicitis. That is should remember. Okay. Now look at the board. Colon. It is divided into 4 parts: ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and sigmoid colon. Ascending colon transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon. Sigmoid colon continues as a rectum. Sigmoid colon continues as rectum. Rectum leads into anal canal, which opens out by anus. Which opens out by anus. Sigmoid colon, okay, continues as a rectum. Rectum leads into anal canal, which opens out by anus. Anus is also guarded by two ring-like muscles. Anus is also guarded by two ring-like muscles. These are called anal sphincters ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. So these are called anal sphincters. You remember this. Anus is guarded by two ring-like muscles are called anal sphincters. You know that rectum is meant for the storage of the feces. Undigested food is called feces. Rectum is meant for the storage of the undigested food materials, nothing but feces. When the rectum is full, that signals goes to our brain. Brain sends impulses to the respective organs. ಅವ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಖಾಲಿ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ. Dear students, suppose ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ if the anal sphincter muscles do not undergo contraction and relaxation, definitely the person has to suffer from constipation. Constipation. Got it? What I'm telling you. ದೊಡ್ಡವರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಭೂಮಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ಬದುಕಿರ್ತೀಯೋ ಅಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡು, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸತ್ತಿದ್ದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನರಕಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಡಿಯರ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಯು ಶುಡ್ ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್, ಒಂದ್ ವೇಳೆ ಅರ್ಜೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿರ್ತೀವಿ, if these anal sphincters do not undergo contraction relaxation, ಸತ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗೇನಿಲ್ಲ ನರಕ ನೋಡಕ್ಕೆ, ಅಲ್ಲೇ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾನೆ ಅವನು. That is should remember. For elimination of the undigested food, contraction relaxation of the anal sphincters are very essential. If they do not undergo, as I said, the person used to suffer from constipation. Very difficult to eliminate the feces. Clear? I think it is very clear for you. I'll repeat once again. So, large intestine extends from ileum to the anus. It is about 1.5 meters long, divisible into 4 parts: cecum, colon, rectum, anal canal. Cecum is a blind sac lying at the section of ileum and colon. It is provided with a finger-like projection is called vermiform appendix. It is a vestigial organ having no function in the human body. I mean concerned with the digestion. Got it? Bacterial infection of the appendix is called appendicitis or appendicitis. Then colon is divisible into 4 parts: ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon. Sigmoid colon continues as rectum, leads into anal canal, opens out by anus. Anus is guarded by two ring-like muscles are called anal sphincters. Got it? Know what I'm telling you? I think it is very clear for you. Now let us come to the functions of the large intestine. Let us come to the functions of large intestine. It helps in the absorption of water and electrolytes from undigested food. Water and electrolytes from undigested food. That is should remember here. Large intestine helps in the absorption of water and electrolytes from undigested food. When the large intestine fails to absorb water and electrolytes now, then only the person used to suffer from the diarrhea. That also should keep in our mind. Got it? Know what I am telling you? So helps in the absorption of water and electrolytes from undigested food. As I said, if the large intestine fails to absorb water and electrolytes from undigested food, the person used to get the diarrhea. ಅವ ನಾವು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಹತ್ರ ಹೋಗಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಹೋದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅವ್ರು ಏನಿಲ್ಲ, ORS ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರೋಲೈಟಿಕ್ ಪೌಡರ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನಾವು ನೀರಲ್ಲಿ ಡೈಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನ ಕುಡಿತೀವಿ. ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ದೇ ಮೇಕ್ಸ್ ದ ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಇಂಟೆಸ್ಟೈನ್ ಟು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರೋಲೈಟ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಅನ್ಡೈಜೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಫುಡ್. ಅವಾಗ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ನಂಬರ್ 2. It stores the symbiotic bacteria. It stores the symbiotic bacteria. Symbiotic bacteria, that is called E. coli bacterium, helps in the synthesis of vitamin B12. You remember this. It stores the symbiotic bacteria, that is the Escherichia coli bacteria. Why it is called coli now? Because it is present in the colon. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಕೊಲೈ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. That is should remember. It is a prokaryotic organism, symbiotic bacteria. Andre those bacteria which are mutually beneficial associated with each other are called symbiotic bacteria. ಆ ಈಕೋಲೈಯಿಂದ ನಮಗೂ ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜಸ್ ಇದೆ, ನಮ್ಮಿಂದ ಈಕೋಲೈಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಈಕೋಲೈಯಿಂದ ನಮಗೂ ತೊಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಮಿಂದ ಈಕೋಲೈಗೂ ತೊಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಟೀರಿಯಾ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ symbiotic bacteria that synthesizes vitamin B12. Dear students, one point you should remember. This I read in one medical book actually. You know that in man, cellulose is a non-digestible polysaccharide. Correct? Cellulose is a non-digestible polysaccharide. You believe it or not? Due to the presence of E. coli bacterium now, negligible amount of cellulose is digested in the colon of the large intestine. Yeah, you have to keep this point. Due to the presence of E. coli bacterium, negligible amount of cellulose is digested in the colon of the large intestine. Hence, colon never gets the cancer. Hence, colon never gets the cancer. That you should keep in your mind. Clear? So this is the second function. The last one is that okay, it stores and eliminates the feces. It stores and eliminates the feces. So these are the storage means rectum. Elimination is nothing but anus. Both are the parts of large intestine only. Rectum is meant for the storage of the feces. Anus is meant for elimination. Clear? So these are the functions of the large intestine. Number one, helps in the absorption of water and electrolytes from undigested food. It stores the symbiotic bacteria, that is E. coli. Helps in the absorption of vitamin B12. Okay, it stores and eliminates the feces. Storage is rectum, elimination is the anus. So these are the functions of the large intestine. So with this, we have completed the parts of the alimentary canal from mouth to anus. Clear? So you have to keep the things according to the heading wise. Then only you can select the correct answer from the 4 options in the NEET examination without hesitation. Clear now? So with this, we have completed the parts of alimentary canal or gastrointestinal tract. I think it is very clear. Okay. Now we'll go for the digestive glands. Let us come to the digestive glands. Yes. Now let us come to the digestive glands. Digestive glands. Yes. Dear students, before going to the digestive glands now, I would like to mention the types of glands based on the shape. In the structural organization animals, we have discussed the 2 systems of classification of the glands. One is based on the number of cells involved for the secretion, unicellular glands, multicellular glands. Then based on the presence or absence of the text, 3 types of glands we have completed. Exocrine, endocrine, heterocrine or dual glands. Got it? These are only in your syllabus. Now I am going to give the types of glands based on the shape. This is not in your syllabus, but we are using the terms while discussing the digestive glands. That is why before going to that, let us come to discuss the types of glands based on the shape. So based on the shape now, glands are 2 types. They are the tubular glands. They are the tubular glands and alveolar glands. Tubular glands and alveolar glands. These are the 2 types actually. If the gland has tube-like structures now, if the glands are the tube-like structures, they are called tubular glands. Got it now? So tubular glands further divided into 2 types. Simple tubular glands. If the gland has only one tube-like structure, simple tubular glands. You can take the example intestinal glands like crypts of Lieberkühn. Crypts of Lieberkühn. Then compound tubular glands. Compound tubular glands. If the gland has many tube-like structures, then it is called compound tubular glands. You can take the example Brunner's glands. Just now we have discussed while explaining the PS of the small intestine. Got it now? If the gland has only one tube-like structure, simple tubular glands. Example, crypts of Lieberkühn, intestinal glands. If the gland has many tube-like structures, compound tubular glands. Example of Brunner's glands. Clear? Similarly, alveolar glands are of two types, namely simple alveolar glands and compound alveolar glands. Simple alveolar glands, compound alveolar glands. If the gland has only one sac-like structure, simple alveolar glands. If the gland has many sac-like structures, like this only, compound alveolar glands. If the gland has many sac-like structures, then it is called as compound alveolar glands. For this, you can take the example salivary glands. Salivary glands. Then simple alveolar glands commonly found in frog. Got it? What I am telling you. So that you should keep in your mind. So these terms we are going to discuss. We are going to use while discussing the types of the digestive glands. So based on the shape, glands are of two types. The tubular glands, alveolar glands. Tube-like glands are called tubular glands. Sac-like glands are called alveolar glands. Tubular glands are of two types. Simple tubular glands. If the gland has only one tube-like structure. Compound tubular glands if the gland has many tube-like structures. Then alveolar glands two types. Simple alveolar glands if the gland has only one sac-like structure. Compound alveolar glands if the gland has many sac-like structures. So that you should keep in your mind. I think it is very clear for you. So these are the types of glands based on the shape. Clear? Okay, next morning we have listed the digestive glands. Okay, salivary glands, gastric glands, salivary glands, gastric glands, intestinal glands, liver and pancreas. So 5 digestive glands we have listed in the morning actually. Got it? What I am telling. Among the 5, intestinal are the numerous and microscopic glands. Clear? Saliva, digestive glands of man are the salivary glands, gastric glands, intestinal glands, liver and pancreas. Among these, intestinal are the numerous microscopic glands. I think you are getting it. Okay. So next class I am going to explain the salivary glands. Okay. Thank you.